Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora main event for the unified WBC and WBO light middleweight world titles. This is a very interesting fight. I know a lot of people don't like it because Sebastian Fundora is coming off a knockout loss to the guy who Tszyu won his world title off of, but it's still a very good fight. Sebastian Fundora is still a top 10 light middleweight, no doubt, and I do feel that people sell Fundora a little bit short. Just because he is a 6'6" behemoth who has an 80-inch reach, which is insane to think about, as a light middleweight, and he chooses to fight up close every fight, it doesn't mean he's not good at it. In terms of fighting up close, Sebastian Fundora is way more talented than Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, since he was a British level fighter, was known for slapping a lot when he would get up close. Sebastian Fundora lands dangerous punches. I mean, just look at what he did to Erickson Lubin, who was a veteran. Look what he did to Brian Mendoza before he got knocked out. Sebastian Fundora is pretty skilled up close. It's just so shocking that a guy who is 6'6" has a reach of 80 inches when guys like Brian Mendoza and Tszyu have around 70 to 72 inches. He chooses to fight like that. If Emmanuel Stewart was still around and he was training Sebastian Fundora, I would expect him wholeheartedly to turn Fundora into Tommy Hearns 2.0. And I do wonder who is going to ask Sebastian Fundora's father why he doesn't train his son to fight at long range. It's just so weird. But either way, he is dangerous up close. The thing is that Tszyu has shown to have an excellent chin and he loves to fight up close. That is how he breaks his opponents down. Tszyu, for me, was one of the breakthrough fighters of last year. He really impressed me with that Tony Harrison performance. A lot of people were saying, why wasn't Tony Harrison moving? Did he get old overnight? And a lot of people who picked Tony Harrison to beat Tszyu suddenly were backtracking and saying, oh, he was shot. The reality is, Tony Harrison did want to move, but Tszyu shut him down with methodical pressure. He wasn't rushing in constantly, creating an easy target for Tony Harrison. He was standing at range. Every time Tony Harrison wanted to jab, Tszyu would bring his hands up to defend. Whenever Tony Harrison would commit with a right hand, Tszyu would roll with it and fire his own right hand. He hurt Tony Harrison multiple times in that fight. He hurt Brian Mendoza multiple times in their fight by doing that. Tszyu was a well-rounded fighter who knows how to walk opponents onto his shots because he's not particularly fast. So if he fights Sebastian Fundora like that, I don't see how he doesn't catch Fundora early, because Fundora, again, he loves to get up close. Tszyu is very dangerous on the inside with hooks and uppercuts. Now, he's probably not going to land uppercuts on a guy who is so much taller than him, but Brian Mendoza landed one left hook and knocked Fundora out. That is something which Erickson Lubin almost did when he fought him in the 6th round, I believe. He dropped Sebastian Fundora with a similar combination. Tszyu, I don't believe, is going to have to worry about having to roll with long-range punches. I think he'll be able to get in no problem, and he loves to go to the body. Tszyu breaks his opponents down over time with that, and Fundora has shown signs of getting hurt when fighters go down to his body. Probably because he's so skinny and lanky, he can be hurt down there. So Sebastian Fundora, in my opinion, should be keeping this fight at long range, but I highly doubt he's going to do that overnight. So this is going to be an up-close battle. And again, Fundora can hurt Tszyu. We've seen Tszyu get dropped before, most notably against Terrell Goucher in the opening round. Now, I think that is going to be a much bigger problem for Tszyu if he fights somebody like a Terence Crawford, but that is for another day. In terms of this fight, he's not going to have to worry about long-range boxing. Sebastian Fundora does have a good jab when he chooses to use it, and Tszyu chooses not to jab a lot. I want to give a shout out to Abner Mares, who did say that he believes Tszyu can't jab. He doesn't know how to jab. I don't know about that, but Tszyu does get caught with jabs a lot, and he chooses not to use his very often. So if Sebastian Fundora chooses to use his jab, I think he could give Tszyu a lot of problems. But every fighter who fights Sebastian Fundora is able to get up close on him, no problem. So is Fundora going to be able to deal with Tszyu's pressure up close? Tszyu doesn't just punch very hard. He doesn't just rough his opponents up on the inside. He's very good at defending himself, pressuring his opponents, smothering them, and putting his head on their chest. So if they do get up close, I don't think Fundora is going to be able to get the space to land those big uppercuts. And I cannot see this fight going 4 rounds without Tszyu landing a clean left hook on Fundora, because Tszyu was able to land that against shorter opponents who have a better defense than Fundora, with no jab to set it up. So if he lands that on Fundora, I expect Fundora to go down. So in my opinion, the only thing delaying Tszyu knocking Sebastian Fundora out is Fundora avoiding getting hit. The best thing to do would be to try and keep this fight at long range. And I do think Fundora does want to do that at times, but he just chooses to fight up close, or his father chooses not to teach him how to fight at long range, how to not tie opponents up. So I see Tszyu trying to break Fundora down over time by going to his body, trying to get him to drop those hands, and when he does, I believe Tszyu is going to fire off left hooks and overhand rights upstairs, and he's very good at landing that right hand, again, with no jab to set it up. And Fundora's defense just isn't that great. So I think if Tszyu lands on Fundora early to the face, he could knock him down, and this fight may not go past 6 rounds. If this fight does go later, because Fundora is able to avoid that big punch upstairs, Tszyu, I believe, will be investing heavily on the body to drain Fundora over time, because Tszyu does fight at a fairly low volume, which allows him to conserve his energy for the later rounds. That's what he did against Tony Harrison. He was able to knock him out late because he wasn't fighting at a particularly high pace. He doesn't rush to get his opponents out of there. He goes for the kill when the time is right. He did that against Brian Mendoza. He had loads of stamina in the later rounds. Mendoza was just very tough and was able to withstand it. So if this fight does go later, and Tszyu has gone to Fundora's body overnight, I expect him to go for the kill, try and take Fundora out of there. I don't believe Fundora is going to be able to make enough improvements over the last few months, even though he's had a lot of time to recover from that knockout defeat, to defend against a guy like Tszyu, who is not just an aggressive attacker, he's a very skilled, very conservative, very aware, aggressive attacker. He attacks when the time is right. He knows how to break his opponents down over time. And I believe Tszyu is just getting better. So I don't see this fight personally going past 6 rounds. I think Tszyu is going to knock him out early. But if the fight does go late, I still expect Tszyu to knock Sebastian Fundora out cold. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down below. Who are you picking and why? Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more.